Now am I on? Could everybody hear me? All right. Well, everybody, we are so glad that you are here. Welcome back if you've been with us before. This is our 6th annual Mental Health Connections evening. Welcome for the first time, if this is the first time that you get to be here. This is jointly put together by First Press Atlanta. So if you are First Press staff, please stand up. Is Ben our only? Trisha can play 2 roles. Ben, way to represent a couple other staff members who are sick. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, First Press. Oh, and Mark Wallace and Dolly have done a lot, speaking also of staff. Samaritan, we've got some therapists and board members here. Just stand up real quick if you're with Samaritan board and staff. We're very glad that you're here. And thank you very much. And Will for Hope Foundation, I think we also have a board member. And where's Rebecca? Somewhere. Oh, there. Okay. And a spouse. And everybody else who's connected, some friends of Will for Hope Foundation. It is just a joy to be together. When Kate and I started this 6 years ago, we knew that we had something meaningful within this community to be able to talk about our faith and to be able to talk about mental health and mental illness and the gifts that we have in one another as we try to be and live fully into who God's created us to be, and also to encourage one another. So it is a joy to be together, and I'm really glad you're all here. Oh, I was holding this for a reason. There. Are you saying anything about this? No. Okay. Jim actually, I've listened to it. You can listen or you can buy, but while you're here, you might want to get it because Jim has also graciously said that he would be glad to sign it. He'd love to meet you. So afterwards, we will have a Q&A when the youth head off to do what the youth do. Then the rest of us will stay here. We'll have a Q&A, and then there'll be a time if you want to get one of his books. So this is to put that in the back of your head.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Katie. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I know it's a cold Sunday evening, but I first want to thank First Presbyterian Church for hosting tonight's event. So much goes on behind the scenes to do programs like this, so I really appreciate everyone's effort and just hard work. A special thank you to Katie Sundermeyer, as she mentioned, and everyone at the Samaritan Counseling Center. This is our 6th event, and we are just so grateful for your partnership over those past 6 years. For those of you who may not know our story, Will for Hope was founded by my family in 2019 after losing my twin brother Will to suicide. Will struggled for many years with depression and addiction. On the surface, everything was great. He had a great job, he had tons of friends, he was a talented athlete, a gifted musician, but yet on the inside, he struggled with deep pain. What made it especially hard for his family and others who loved him was that Will struggled to often get the help he needed. Getting the right treatment was difficult and something that he resisted. Suicide is devastating. Many of you here have been touched by it in some way. You're left with endless questions of why. What happened? What could have been done differently? How could you have avoided it? But no matter how hard you try, no matter how many times you rehearse those questions in your head, they are never fully answered. As a family, we eventually got to a point where we realized we had a decision to make. We could let this tragedy break us, or we could figure out a way to do something to help others who may be facing similar challenges. Our mission with Will for Hope is simple. First, we host events like this to raise awareness, reduce stigma, and create space for honest conversation around mental health and addiction. To date, we've hosted multiple events in South Carolina, and this marks number 6 here in Atlanta. Second, we fund a scholarship at an inpatient treatment center in South Carolina called Any Length Recovery. This scholarship helps individuals who are truly at rock bottom access the treatment that they otherwise could not afford. Periodically, we receive letters from recipients of this scholarship expressing gratitude for the help that they've received and how that we have helped them turn their life around. These letters remind us why this work matters. In addition to our annual events and scholarship fund, we've held 2 large fundraisers, both tennis rallies, one in 2019 and in 2022. And I'm excited to share that we're going to host a 3rd fundraiser later this year in Columbia, which will be a music event. So more details to come. So tonight, our guest, a great one. He has lived a life that on paper reads like a highlight reel. He played soccer for the University of South Carolina Gamecocks when they were a national powerhouse. He's met multiple presidents. Oh, good Gamecocks in the room. He's met multiple presidents. He's performed across the country and around the world, from small local venues to Madison Square Garden. He attended Tiger Woods' birthday party, played golf with John Daly, spent time with Michael Jordan, Charles Barkley, and even played tennis with John McEnroe. He is, of course, the longtime drummer and songwriter for the 2-time Grammy Award-winning band Hootie and the Blowfish. But what makes tonight meaningful isn't these accolades. Behind much of that success, he was quietly struggling with substance abuse and addiction. He writes candidly about this in his book, Swimming with the Blowfish, which will be available after the event. But tonight, he is here not just as a musician, but as someone willing to tell the truth about struggle, recovery, and grace. He's here with his beautiful wife, Laura, and his daughter, Cameron, and together they are raising a blended family of 5 and have found the true love and deep joy that comes from healing and restoration. So please join me in welcoming Jim Sonefeld.
Between these chords and my boot, I am nearly guaranteed to hit that deck at some point tonight. I hid behind walls I thought I couldn't climb, stood in the dark, hands over my eyes, watched the world take hold of what could have been mine. I was too afraid. I let this crazy old world knock me to the ground. All the times I failed, they tried to keep me down, but I got up just to go another round, saying not today. What will I gain if I don't try to find the truth beneath the lies? I'm gonna fight this fear and choose to stay. I'm gonna live my life this way, unafraid, unafraid. I'm gonna live my life this way, unafraid. You know, I tried to be so perfect, keeping up with my pride. But what's it all worth if it's just a big disguise? The picture gets a little more real when you get outside the lines. What will I gain if I don't try to find the truth beneath the lies? I'm gonna fight this fear and choose to stay. I'm gonna live my life this way, unafraid, unafraid. I'm gonna live my life this way, unafraid. What will I gain if I don't try to find the truth? Oh, those little lies. I'll fight this fear and choose to stay. I'm gonna live my life this way, unafraid. Thank you all. So what about this fearlessness that I sing? I wrote that song to point towards the courage that's sometimes needed to make big, very difficult choices. It begs the question, or a few questions: where does fear come from? How does one become so hopeless in life? Why is it so difficult to overcome hopelessness? Why is asking for help so darn hard? Maybe the hardest thing of all. Whether you've suffered a trauma maybe in your life, or maybe just some basic hurts, hang-ups, or habits. Maybe you live with a sick family member. Or like me, you've been addicted and are in recovery. It's the same solution. It's what I want to circle around tonight. It's called connection. It's why we all feel so good about coming out on a Sunday afternoon, because we get one another, right? So connection is the key for those that are suffering. It's also the key for those around the ones suffering. I don't assume anyone here to be in recovery, but I can imagine a few of you have been around people like that, or maybe even have a family member. We become entangled, we sufferers, twisted emotionally, mentally, chemically, socially, but yet fear and pride, denial, ignorance sometimes, not knowing, hold us back. They block us, and they block us from wellness. And what does wellness begin with, Laura? She was going to yell it out. We. Isn't that funny? Wellness begins with two important letters, we. It is all about connection. Whether you're overcoming your own addiction or struggle or hurt or trauma or someone else's. We need a group. We need a guide or a God, perhaps. In February of 1989, I needed a little help. I was trying to graduate college. I was in my last semester at the University of South Carolina. Go Gamecocks. Thank you. I knew that there was one here. I know there's two, actually. Three. Go Gamecocks. I was a kid in his... I was too old to be a senior in college. I was probably 24. Trying to make it to the finish line. I was a musician, and a strange, difficult day in my life connected me with my future. I was running out of our 4-story apartment as it went up in blazes. It was actually 37 years ago this month that I found myself in the unfortunate position of seeing a guy standing at our door, rapping loudly at our 3rd floor door. And when I opened it, he was smoky and partially, panicked, and said, "Call 911, get the girls upstairs, and get the out." So I did just that. I grabbed the guitar as I was calling 911 that I had borrowed from a friend. I knew I could never repay what it cost to have a new guitar at that time. So I ran out and got the girls with that guitar, and we stood outside and watched our lives change very quickly. I went that weekend for some solace and maybe sympathy at a nearby bar, because that's how I rolled. Maybe you're supposed to call your parents or go see a counselor or a church member, but I went to a bar. And I walked in, and here was this band playing, and I got about halfway to the stage, and the guy that was playing guitar recognized me. We had a class together. And he kind of stopped the whole show when he saw me. I thought, well, what's this all about? And he was sort of using his influence to bring attention to the fact that there were a dozen students that had been out of their apartments, and there was a big fire, and they mostly lost everything. And I thought, wow, that's a nice thing to recognize. But he didn't stop there. He took his hat off and passed it around the bar and said, "Pitch in, because this guy that I'm introducing out in the audience doesn't have a toothbrush or a pillow or anything." And when I picked up that hat full of dollar bills at the side of the stage there a few minutes later, it was $36, which in 1989 wasn't nothing. Again, I didn't have anything, so I was very appreciative. They did a love offering, basically, and I remembered that. I didn't remember the band necessarily. They were okay, but 3 months later, as a budding songwriter, I felt called to write about, sort of that feeling of knowing that we can lift each other up, knowing that we can sort of lean on each other and connect for good, for love. And so I wrote this little song called Hold My Hand, and I found myself 3 months later, August, auditioning for this little band who wanted to write their own music, and they needed a drummer. And so I said, I'm going to go audition for that band. And at the end of the session, they said, do you have any original songs, Mr. Very Good Drummer Guy? Do you write music? I said, I just have this one song, Hold My Hand. And Darius Rucker said, after I played it for him on acoustic, okay, you're in the band. And that was the beginning of my new life in 1989. We worked hard, spent 5 years touring clubs. I liked that. I felt at home with the partying, with the carrying on and the drinking. We started touring a little bit in our van, experiencing a lot of what I call geographic changes, right? And I was having consequences as a result of my drinking. I'd started at 14, started using drugs, experimenting recreationally, and I was enjoying our life of playing Raleigh one night, and then if I had a bad event, a fight or a fallout or something I regretted, we were playing D.C. the next night and Charlottesville the night after that, and I liked moving from town to town, thinking those burdens wouldn't catch up with me. We spent 5 years doing that. We grew enough to get the attention of Atlantic Records. This was the biggest record label in America. They signed Little Hootie and the Blowfish, a big fish in a small pond called South Carolina. They brought us out to be a very small fish in a big pond called Los Angeles to record our first album. We were amazed and freaked out, and we treated it like we might never get back. So, of course, I partied a lot during our 2 months there. And we had dreams, big dreams, and fears. We didn't know if it would be just a record that we made and no one ever heard it. But we were going to make the most of it out there. It was a good place on the road to camouflage my drinking. And that we were playing bars a lot, what came next was very unexpected. We got this song on the radio in the summer of '94, Hold My Hand, and a guy with a big TV show, late night show called Late Night with David Letterman, heard that song and said, let's get these guys on the show, which we all put on our shoes, and we would have ran to New York to do it. Luckily, we got an airplane, and we went there, and it was great, and it changed our trajectory. What I call luck happened, right? Luck is where preparation meets opportunity. We'd been working our tails off for years, and now we had a big break. And David Letterman allowed us to be heard by 5 or 6 million of his fans in a mere 3 minutes. Our life changed quickly. Again, we moved from a van and bars to a tour bus and the whole country, Canada, overseas. We spent 5 years having a really great time, working very hard, living out our dreams, also surrounding us with a lot of yes men. Being the biggest stars, you get served. You hire people to take care of your life, and it means that you can hardly fail, because when you do, nobody wants to tell you you did. So I was making a lot of mistakes and not hearing and feeling the consequences except for in some shame and guilt. And this went along swimmingly until around 2000, where we started to spend 5 more years on the unfortunate downside of the music industry, when you're looking back and saying, wow, how come we're only playing to 3,000 people when 2 years ago we were playing to 20,000 people? That's how fast it can happen. And I struggled emotionally to realize that the best part of our careers was likely behind us. I had also started a family, a little panicked about that. I wanted a family so badly, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was a father who was bringing his bad habits of drinking home, and they didn't mix very well. A second child came along by 2003, and it was a tough life. I could have used a great proverb by a great king who wrote in Proverbs 26, warning to the person who is wise in his own eyes. And I was, right? We gauge ourselves on success. Society tells us if we have a job or if we have a car or if we have a house, we're good. If we have a family, you're good. They look like they have a good life. But I did only have a good life on the outside. I was struggling on the inside. And I didn't want to take anyone else's suggestions. So the Proverbs goes, warning to the person who is wise in his own eyes, there is more hope for a fool than he. And I was the wise man because I thought I knew enough. I didn't need you to tell me. And believe me, by 2003 and 4, people were lining up to tell me, take me aside, to tell me they love me, but they're worried about me. And if you've ever had an intervention, they're not great. And if you've ever given one, God bless you. I had a few. I was, as the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous states, it's a story about a person and their struggle. And it says that they were inwardly frightened, outwardly defiant, and desperately needing a prop to keep things going. And alcohol had become my prop. I felt comfortable after the feeling of a drink or two. Unfortunately, I couldn't ever resolve the end game, defining the alcoholic. He may be able to have one, but he doesn't get to say how many he has after that. It's a lack of control. And I was just that, out of control. My recreational drinking had moved over the years to habitual, to medicinal, an every night drinker, and to now what looked like fully alcoholic drinking. And I needed help, and then God knocked. Now, I didn't know a God at this point. I didn't know. I had been raised in a Christian church, but when I ran off, I was running also from God, so I hadn't seen or heard or reached out to the God of my understanding lately. But it was a funny day. I woke up in a detached studio I'd built behind our home. And I was in bad shape. I'd stayed up most of the night writing music and imbibing in way too many beverages and other things. Got to bed about 5, and about 10 a.m., I hear a pitter-patter up the stairs. And I know who it is. It's my 4-year-old daughter, who's in this room tonight. Thank you very much for being here. And she's coming up to check on old Dad. And she hops up on my chest where I'm horizontal on a couch, and with all the joy in her heart says a few words that stop me in my tracks. She says, "Dad, what are you doing?" And for the first time ever, I don't have an answer. Maybe you that have children have fibbed once or twice to resolve an issue with a child. I was good at that. She repeats it again because I don't answer. "Dad, what are you doing?" And I don't have an answer. And I feel like something is moving in the ether that is maybe shutting me up for the first time ever to not give a excuse or fib. She says it one last time. "Dad, what are you doing?" Finally frustrated, with no response from me, she hops back off and heads back into the house. And I'm left there with maybe God doing what I can't do for myself. The question is repeating in my head, what are you doing? What are you doing? I need to ask myself this. And the answer for the first time in my life at age 40 comes out honest. I don't know what I'm doing. I seem to be under the control of alcohol. It's making me make poor decisions that I'm regretting, and I can't get out of the cycle because alcohol is also the thing I think I need to get relief, and that's the alcoholic. That's the sick person. They seek for the thing that is killing them, and that was what was killing me. For the first time ever, my desperation to get better because I had an intuition I wasn't right met with willingness to do something about it. And when desperation and willingness came together, I did that very difficult thing, and I picked up the phone to call for help. And the guy on the other end picked up the phone. He was sober. He'd been recovered for about a year. And he did what a good recoverer does. He said, "Are you safe? Are you okay? And can I help you?" And he brought me to my first 12-step meeting that night. And I arrived with ego and judgmentalism because I was the blowfish. And if you don't remember 2004 or the 90s, I had quite beautiful long blonde hair, which on that day, to be fair, was greasy and tangled and smelled like I'd spilled a drink in my hair. I was not in good shape. But I had the heavy burden, the weight of, I know I'm not living right. but I'm afraid to ask for help. And what I was met with was something different. Acceptance, humility by the audience who I did not know, 25 people sitting in a circle, laughter, which had been long gone from my life, because being addicted to a substance is difficult, and often you lose that ability to laugh. And I experienced the power of transparency. People sitting around being so deeply honest, not just hurling all the bad things they did or the regrets, but telling me their problem, the solution, and a pathway to get there. And I thought, I can't deny this is an incredible place that I should come back to. And they said, try not to drink tonight and find a meeting tomorrow. Keep coming back. I did just that. I had admitted in that first meeting, in fact, something I never thought I would, that I was powerless over alcohol. I had a real power struggle. I thought I was in control, and I was not. I was getting my butt cut. And I admitted that my life was unmanageable. That's step one in the 12-step model. I'd like to walk you through a little bit of the 12-step model tonight with some music to accompany it. You know, I felt lost, defeated that night, weak, broken, certainly powerless. Maybe you've been there. Maybe it's powerless over a chemical, maybe a pill, maybe a person, codependency, maybe a website, maybe a trauma. There's some powerful lures out there, and they can get you, but there is help. Wellness begins with we. There's Celebrate Recovery, 12-step modeled Christ-centered recovery for gambling, overeating, pornography, addiction. There's Al-Anon, a support group if you happen to be in a family with someone who's suffering. All sorts of places to go. They practice a wonderful thing called anonymity. It means what you say in those rooms, who you see in those rooms, in fact, it all stays there. No one's going to talk about you. They're not going to gossip about you, and that was empowering to me. I was blown away. I was already feeling like there was transformation at hand. I was about to learn a good lesson that we all probably have learned. Some of us may be too young to see it, but there's one constant we will have to face in life, and that is change. And I was about to be right on the edge of it. How can I pretend that from the start until the end I'll get to keep the things I love? No matter how I plan, my world keeps shifting like the sands, and when I try to hold on, it all just slips away. So I find my expectation, but like a candle, the flame gets blown away. And as I grow old, one thing stays the same, always waiting there to meet me is change. And how the kids have grown, and you can't turn back the clock, I know. I wish that time could just stand still. I find a chapter in my life, good friends, a home I really like, but I can't stop the pages as they begin to turn. So I find my inspiration, but like a candle, the flame gets blown away. And as I grow old, one thing stays the same, always waiting there to greet me is change. And I wish I had more time, I wish that I could see your smile. And out on this road alone, I wish I could stay home a while. And as I grow old, one thing change. Always waiting there to greet me, trying so damn hard to beat me. Always waiting there to greet me is change. Thank you. That song I wrote for Hootie and the Blowfish. You can find it on an album we put out in 2019 called Imperfect Circle. So, step one, powerless over something. For me, alcohol, and that my life was unmanageable. Step two is coming to believe in a power greater than myself that could restore me to sanity. Probably three important parts in here. Well, there's the God concept, which I did not have at the time. I had a childhood God. I hadn't quite reconciled some of my adult experiences with that. A friend got me a Bible called a Recovery Bible, which sewed together many Jesus thoughts and ideas and many proverbs and scriptures into the 12 steps, and you could see where they were directly connected. All you need is a simple God concept. For me, sitting around 20 people a night who were inspiring me and encouraging me and using 12 spiritual steps to get well was definitely a power greater than myself until I could make my way back to some church. The word restore, restored to sanity. Restore means to rebuild, redevelop, or recondition. I thought I just wanted to fix part of my life, but a full restoration was in need for me, an overhaul. I had to start over. And then sanity, to be restored to sanity. The more I looked at my life that I'd been living, I realized first I needed to define insanity. Maybe you've heard the definition. It's trying to do the same thing over and over and again, expecting some different result. I had been deceiving my family and friends, saying I won't have guilt over that. I lied to cover up some things, but I would have guilt every time. I continued in codependent, unhealthy relationships, saying I wouldn't regret it, this will be different. And they never were. I drank to excess, saying it's not going to be painful tomorrow. And it always was. And if it wasn't painful to me, it might be painful for someone else. I had a choice to trust God or go on my own self-will, so I chose God. Step 3 says we make a decision to turn our will and lives over to the care of God as we understand God. My question was, as a 40-year-old man who was running on self-will and a successful music career, what is God's will? I could barely understand who God was, let alone what his will for my life was. How do I find God's will? Well, HOW, how to find it, is a little acronym that we use in the 12 steps. It stands for honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. 3 basic old principles that AA did not invent, but they certainly lean on it quite heavily. Self-honesty that can lead to outward honesty, willingness to take direction from others, and open-mindedness to realize that maybe I'm not the center of the world and the smartest guy. I can have many skills, but one of my skills I did not have was how to get sober. So I needed to keep that open mind. The point is I need some new ideas to replace my old ones. And they lead to better decisions. I have fewer regrets. Thank you, Andy Stanley, for putting that one out there for me. For me, it was a perspective change, just sitting in these rooms, and I went every day for months. My perspective of what I thought was the wrathful God began to change. I felt like the kingdom of God, which I always felt a little outside of, was maybe a little more open to me now. The GOD, what we call a group of drunks, listening to a GOD, good orderly direction, was giving me something I was greatly missing called hope. I didn't think there was an answer. I thought I was too weak-willed or immoral or unintelligent to have an answer, and I didn't want to reach out to others. But I was beginning to see hope was in my connection. My foray into this third step, I lingered for a while. I just wanted to sit here and try and discover what God's will but really is. But should be just a brief on-ramp to the other steps, because on step 4, it begins the house cleaning part of the steps. And I had to remember the God I don't know and his will for me, hopefully, a loving God, compared to my old life, was going to be vastly different. And I heard a great thing in a meeting. I go to a lot of meetings in South Carolina. And the guy one night stood up and said, God's will. Here's how it can work in your life. He says, if you keep doing what you always did, you're going to keep getting what you always got. I said, is that a scripture? It might be, but not with the accents. Step 4, the house cleaning. Making a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Sounds like a blast, doesn't it? Can't you wait to get down and write out a bunch of things that you've regretted or resented in your life? It's not the worst thing to do. As a 40-year-old man, it is still the wisest choice I made to write it out. Because I'd solved a lot of things between these years, right? And I usually ended up the hero or the victim, and you were to blame. And that's how things go when I just solve them here. But when I write it out, ooh, there's no getting around that truth. It's a fact-finding, fact-facing step to resolve our inner turmoil. We write it out like a business inventory. Anybody own a business, you got to do an inventory, right? You have things in the back room that may be broken or old. You have things in the front that aren't selling. You got to give them a value. So I needed to do this with my life. And I had shelves filled with a lot of unhealthy or unvaluable, which one is that? Attitudes and ideas. I had fear. I had kindness. I had pride. I discovered judgment. I had an ability to love, yet I was severely self-centered. I carried shame. I was addicted to another drug called your approval, which is not even as nice as being a people pleaser, you people pleasers out there. I didn't really even care what you thought. I just needed you to approve of my behavior. It's a little more twisted. So I had some problems, and I was facing them. A guy outside a meeting one day is talking to a few other guys, and he's got some real problems going on in his life. And he says, man, you think my problems are bad? You ought to see my solutions. Wait a sec. He's right. We all have problems. A lot of them are the same because we're all human, right? We want love. We want to give love. We fear. We want acceptance. We have all these great God-given ideas and then some twisted ones. But it's my solutions that are the problem. My responses, my reaction. Everyone fails. I couldn't accept failure, so I'd hide it. Everyone has regrets, but I couldn't come to terms with them. So my response, getting to the root of the problem, is what I needed to do. I found my self-esteem had gotten dinged on occasion when I wrote it out in a very easy form that they give you. My security had often been threatened. My ambitions were going sideways. My personal relationships were getting a C- at best. And there are answers. You work with a sponsor. It's easy to get to the root, and then you have an easy solution because you go the opposite way. And so I acknowledged and I found all these flaws, right? Anybody have any flaws? Just raise your hand up real high. Be proud. Come on. Right? So my flaws as a guy who was a practicing alcoholic were loud and proud because I wasn't usually sorry. I had trouble apologizing, and my flaws were easy to see. And this step helped me reduce them. Flaws are simply another great acronym: failures, limitations, and weaknesses. Who doesn't have them? But I tried to acknowledge them or soothe them with alcohol, and that's not the way to do it. So now my flaws are like y'all. I timidly raise my hand. Yeah, I am not perfect. Welcome to the club. It's okay. I had to discover them so I could find peace, which is the whole point of this thing. I needed peace, and I didn't have it before And I thought I could find it through chemicals and through people. No, it's through good relationships with people and God. A lot of addicts have lived a hell on earth, right? And I was beginning to see a heaven on earth was possible. Good people, good ideas. Yes, some failures, some setbacks, but heaven on earth, I think, is possible. It's been a long, cold winter here in the dark. Spring is so far away. Still I'm keeping the faith that love will arrive and bless us with a sunny day. And I choose to believe the walls are coming down from the west to the east. Like my old friend says, you don't have to be a hippie to believe in peace. And I try to remain smiling through all the pain. I see love and its worth when I see heaven on earth. And I see grace when we're building bridges instead of burning them down. And I feel love when we lift up the children instead of knocking them around. And I try to remain smiling through all the pain. And I see love and its worth when I see heaven on earth. And I see red in the canyon and blue in the skies, and black and white together as one. I have fallen and failed, but I'll rise again. I'm gonna shine like the gold in the sun, just like heaven on earth. I'm gonna shine, we're gonna shine. And I see your face in the sunlight. Oh, I'm gonna rise up on earth. And I try to remain smiling through all the pain. I see love and its worth when I see heaven on earth. Thank you. All right, we got to zip through these steps here. Step 5. After step 4, we admit to God, ourselves, and the hard part, another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs, which have been discovered in step 4. Step 4 is a practice to become knowledgeable about our difficulties, our flaws. Step 5 is learning how to communicate them, men. Even the ladies laugh at that one, because we are not gifted with that ability and desire to share all our stuff. But a step 5, becoming honest with another human being, was huge for me. I admitted my wrongdoings to another human being, my sponsor, releasing a huge burden, secrets. It deflated the ego that kept telling me, You're the best guy ever. No, I'm not. But I can get fixed. I can get better. It strengthened my kinship with God. The big book says we build an arch in this step through which we will walk free men. I never knew how much stuff I kept in and how entangled it made me and how heavy it was until I wrote it down and discovered it and then said it out loud. My sponsor said, man, you sound like you really got the monkey off your back. I said, yeah, I was all confident. Yeah, man, step 5. He said, well, be careful because you're still in the circus. And I think he meant Hootie and the Blowfish. Step 6 is a preparation for step 7. We become entirely ready for God to remove these defects of character. And then we humbly ask Him to remove them. Up to this point, I've admitted some stuff. I've come to believe. I've made a decision. I've searched my motivations and my inventory. I've admitted again. I've become entirely ready, and now I'm in a humble state of saying, I need you, God. And mainly not thinking that He's just going to come down and take them away. Because I need to also let go, right? I don't want a wrestling match to ensue with God where He's trying to take away my character defects, and I kind of like a few of them. Self-pity. Ooh, that warm, cozy blanket was working for me, except it's not healthy for me. Some fears are real, but worry is not too healthy, and I can do too much of it. So I need to let go, especially of the ones that I truly find objectionable, ones that are not working for me or my spouse or my children or my friends. Step 8, a preparation for step 9. We make a list of all persons we'd harmed, and we become willing to make amends to them. And then in step 9, we make direct amends when possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So I know what I've done. I know the trends of my bad thinking and my flaws and how I've harmed other people. And I go and make it right. There's only 3 things I'm trying to fix in me and through this recovery process. I need to get right with myself through discovery. I need to get right with God through admission. And I need to get right with others through a little amend. I'm not begging for forgiveness. I don't need your forgiveness. I owe you something when I hurt you. So I'm not going to ask you to forgive me. I need to mend offense. That's why they call it amends, that I've broken or damaged. So I get directly in front of people and I unlock that door that I thought was previously closed. It's an opportunity to heal, and that's what this is all about. I went to my band. Yeah, the guys who partied with me all over the world and enabled me and looked the other way when I did dumb stuff. Because I worried them. Because I hurt them, I harmed them, I scared them, especially in my last drinking years when they didn't know who was going to show up. The nice guy at 12 in the afternoon or the guy who's crazy at 2 in the morning because he can't control alcohol. Some girls that I had relationships who I would have claimed I knew it was her fault. Upon review and writing it out, I had something to do with it, so I made a few amends there. My mother, a hard one, which took me a long time to have a full amend. She was the one who was most honest, earliest in my addiction. She would tell me, usually and tactfully in front of a family member or 10, Jimmy, are you drinking again tonight? Jim, is that your 5th drink or your 10th drink? Jim, I'm worried about your drinking. Mom, shut up. She loved me so much, she wasn't afraid to tell me the truth well before any of the other interveners came around. She never got to see me sober. She passed about 3 months before I got clean. And it always hurt me that I wronged her. I failed her. I didn't listen to her. And where was she and what was she thinking now? But a good sponsor and working through these principles allowed me to get to a place where I had a good relationship and understanding with her. Her ashes are now about a half mile from my house, and Laura, my wife, who's here tonight, we get to go there and smile and remember and cry. But I know she's okay. She sees me now, and she's very happy, and she understands that I was a young man and didn't want to listen to his mommy. As a result of making these amends, I found that I needed to forgive some other people as well. It gets me to step 10. I call it my spiritual fitness program. If you want to have a physical fitness program, you go to the gym, you do cardio, you lift weights, and you do it every day. And now I needed a spiritual fitness program because I had a relationship with God. I wanted to stay clean and sober and better. So steps 10, 11, and 12 allow us a program to do that. Step 10 is continuing to take a personal inventory and admitting promptly when I'm wrong. I get to clean up my messes in real time. And after you've had some time of growing and some transformation, it hurts to hurt people a lot more. I used to be numb to it. I was hard-hearted, as it says in the Bible. And as my heart began softening, it didn't feel good to have bad relationships. So I did it on a daily basis with, I'm sorry, I've harmed you, and can I do anything to fix it? Step 11 is seeking through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God as I understand Him. There's only two things you have to know about prayer and meditation. You need to start and you need to continue. And if I could drop that mic and not have to pick it up, I would. Because that's been one of the best ongoing gifts in my life, is to have a relationship with God and to know I can get on my knees and submit every day, and I need to seek. Not wait around to see if He's going to take away my new flaws, but seek a relationship. Step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of practicing actively these steps, I have a spiritual experience, a spiritual awakening. And then I carry this message to others and try and practice the principles in all my affairs. Y'all are easy. Y'all are seeking a message of hope and of light and love. And most of the people in my 12-step rooms are the same way. I get along and it's fabulous. But when we get out there, it's not as easy, right? People don't drive right. People don't vote for my guy. People don't wear the right sports jersey. I saw a Georgia jersey today. Did you imagine that? These are my hang-ups, right? These are my battles that I need to use these principles which have saved my life for. So I use them out there too. I'll sing one last song. I want to give you a little hope and inspiration in case you need it. 90 years ago, Bob Smith and Bill Wilson, two alcoholics, spawned an anonymous fellowship and eventually published the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12-step model. 10 or 15 years later, Al-Anon spawns because the families of those recovering alcoholics realized they could use the 12-step model as well. It improved their relationships with the sober alcoholics. They experienced their own personal spiritual growth through the 12-step principles, and they could give comfort to new AA members as they entered the program. So Al-Anon continues to save lives. Alateen spawns up, helping youth specifically. They have the same 12 steps, and they've adopted some different traditions. And 2026, gosh, we probably have more help than ever thanks to the internet, connecting with others. NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness. DBSA, the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance. You can reach them whenever you want. OPLM, which stands for Other Parents Like Me, a support community of parents of young adults with mental health challenges. There's help out there, y'all. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to walk around heavy-hearted, because there are answers. I'm going to sing one last song of hope. Let's stand up. Let's get some blood flowing. This is my last bit. This is a song that I brought to the band in 1989. It's a song that David Letterman let us play on his show. It's a song that we've sang around the darn globe for, I don't know, almost 40 years now. Sing along with me if you know it. With a little love and some tenderness, we'll walk upon the water, we'll rise above the mess with some peace and some harmony. We'll take the world together, we'll take them by the hand, 'cause I got a hand for you. I wanna run with you. Yesterday I saw you standing there. Your head was down, your eyes were red. No comb it touched your hair. I said, get up, let me see you smile. We'll take a walk together, we'll walk the road a while. 'Cause I got a hand for you, I got a hand for you, and I wanna run with you. So come on, hold my hand. I want you to hold my hand. Come on, hold my hand. 'Cause I wanna love you the best I can. Y'all sound good. Honorary blowfish. You see, I was wasted, and I was a waste of time, till I thought about your problem, and I thought about your crime. Then I stood up, and then I screamed aloud, I don't want to be part of the problem, don't want to be part of your crowd. 'Cause I got a hand for you, I got a hand for you, and I want to run with you. So come on, hold my hand. I want you to hold my hand. Hold my hand. 'Cause I want to love you the best I can. The best I can. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Before we have the Q&A, and I'm going to say a couple words, I want to have a prayer so our youth can go do their thing with Gretchen and Trisha. So let's pray together. Loving God, we thank you for the ways that you connect us to each other in ways that draw us closer to you and help renew our lives. And on this first Sunday of Lent, we think about the messages that Jim has given us and the ways that you invite us to change, to see heaven on earth, to reach for you, and to hold each other's hands. And so, God, will you be our strength? Will you continue to be at work in our lives in each and every day? And we especially thank you for Jim and his witness tonight. Will you bless him and his family? In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, youth, thanks for being here. Continue your night with Ben and team. And for all of us, the adults are pretty close. Jim's going to figure out where he's going to sit. And I'm going to tell you a couple quick things. And Sarah's going to come join me. Okay, when we finish our Q&A, which I'm about to just give you a tiny background about, there are tables outside. So there's the table that Jim will be at in just a couple minutes. He really is happy to meet you and get his book, sign him, talk with him for a minute until it's time for the next person. And then there are also tables for Will for Hope Foundation. If you don't know that much about the Will for Hope Foundation, come and check that out. There's stuff around the Samaritan Counseling Center. There's some information for a couple dream groups that I'm leading coming up if you want to learn more about that. And we also have our new focal point at First Press that just came out today. So if you did not get your copy, that's over at the other table as well. So Sarah Bosley, who's an elder at First Press and a therapist at the Samaritan Counseling Center, is going to come and join me. We're really just here as needed. You're still normally mic'd, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Oh, yeah, great.
Forever. I'm taking it home.
Great. I think the lights are going to come back up in a second.
I think it's the mood lighting.
But that's right. This is the night show, yeah.
So, Jim, what's Darius really like? Now that the
Yes.
kids are gone.
Yes. Then, I guess we can do a Q&A however we'd like. Some of you here are here because of your connection to one of these three organizations or to mental health. When Kate Monk was telling Sarah and I that she'd had this connection with Jim through the Will for Hope Foundation, is somebody working on the lights? Are you working on it? Okay. It was really fun because I was like, oh, Sarah and I were in college in the mid-90s, and I was like, oh, I went to a Hootie Blowfish concert. They came to my college campus. And then Sarah's like, they came to my college campus too. And so it has just been.
I have an interesting little tidbit about that. I was at Davidson in '94 when apparently, according to Google, you played at Davidson, where I went to see you, the night before you went and played at Letterman. So it was an important show on the way
Nice, the
to
warm-up.
the Letterman show.
Thank you.
You get to claim that. I did not Google when he actually came to Vanderbilt and how I could notice about that. I'm very impressed with that. We're not going to ask him if he had more fun playing at Vandy or at Davidson, but. And then I was talking to, so Sarah and I, we're 50, and I was talking to some people in their 40s that started following you when you were at the top, which I understand, you made it. Okay, that was a tangent. That was not on my notes, sorry, I went all the way off. What I wanted to say was, we've known that this is going to be a gift that Jim is coming here, and we're very glad to have some time to be able to ask questions, which he's very open to. I wanted Sarah to just join us because she's a therapist, so if there's any mental health perspectives that you want to bring in, but we're here all the time and Jim's not. So use your time in that regard. And I'm going to kick us off with the question.
Yes.
As I was listening to what you were saying.
It was Davidson. They were way better. What? Not true. Go ahead.
Okay, that was funny. Okay. What I was thinking as we were moving through, in my mind, it was just a witness. It was moving through your witness. It says a lot to me that your wife Laura and daughter Cameron are here tonight. And I was thinking about how you have included them in this recovery and healing and transformation, and how you were able to be open to the healing that they needed, or I think a lot of times, in kind of based on your stuff around connections too, it's not only the way God is merciful or at work in our own lives, but God has protected your family in this space, and I'm sure not without some bumps. But does that make a succinct enough question? How have you been able to open up to your family through this as well and bring them along in the process?
Yeah, well, it's a small miracle to have a public existence as a musician who's out touring and on television and on the internet. It's hard to combine that with a private life. And so I've been blessed that we've been able to keep a good bit of our life, just that, our life. It doesn't always have to be known. And then I screwed up and wrote a book. So it tells our whole life on a bigger scale. So if you want the whole story, which is about, again, healing, finding new ways, finding better ways, so you can either keep relationships that are important or have to ditch some ones that just don't work and maybe were never healthy. And recovery is a lot of that. It's deciding what is healthy or unhealthy for your life going forward. And I had to either drop a lot of people off, or maybe they dropped me off, I don't know, along the way, because I'm seeking a new life. And I've been sober. I picked up a medallion for 21 years sober this month. And there's people that thank you. There's people that, that I haven't had in my life for that whole time because they aren't healthy. And there's people I've discovered along the way as Hootie's stars have risen and fallen, and so has Darius's. We've gone through different epochs of life where we've had to rediscover who we are now. So I don't know if that answers that, but some of the principles I used to get sober are the same principles that end up working for my family, and so we try and land on those. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a question? You get to go first since you are from
Game.
South Carolina. Or yeah.
Game.
What role or how has music played a part in your healing and your journey?
That's a good question about music being a healer. Well, it was always I needed, and I didn't know this, but I always benefited from a creative outlet in life. So I played a lot of sports, which I see as spontaneous creativity. A soccer field mainly was my sport, and it's quick thinking and adjusting and reinventing and reassessing, and it's all the creative spirit. And so songwriting became something that was in that same realm. I never thought of it that way until I got clean and realized, wait, what am I supposed to write about now? I had told myself, as a lot of musicians might, that the chemicals or the drugs benefit and expand my mind. And that was a big fat lie that had its end in 2004. And I had to rediscover, it's basically like doing an inventory on what your motivation is for writing. So I had to rediscover, what does writing mean to me even? And I took a slow turn towards contemporary Christian music, which I hated when I first heard it. Read the book, but the person is sitting in this room, my wife, who was not my wife at the time, and the song, I Can Only Imagine, and we were with my sister, I think, driving somewhere, and that song came on, one of the best contemporary Christian songs ever written. She's like, isn't this so great? Don't you see how God is? I'm like, couldn't imagine where electric guitars and drums and big choruses could meet Jesus. I just thought it was some gimmick. Fast forward like 18 months and I'm, starting to write my first album of contemporary Christian music. It's a power for me, and I discovered not only do I need the creative outlet, but it's a power. The words that I started reading biblically and in our Alcoholics Anonymous big book started coming to light when they had melody to them. And it was not only when I was listening, but then I could be the creator of that too. So I put out 3 sort of contemporary Christian EPs, and then a 4th one that was a mixture of hopeful, positive lyrics and some Christian stuff. And those compact discs are available tonight with the purchase of a book. Sorry, I didn't bring the cassettes that you were hoping for. Thank you for that question. Yes.
So first off, go Tigers.
Yes. Which ones? LSU, Clemson, Detroit?
No, more Clemson.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're forgiven. Stay seated.
Obviously you hear and read and watch documentaries on how difficult the music industry is with drugs, alcohol, and all of that, right? When you first got clean and you had the support in your local networks, when you went out on the road, if you went out on the road, how did you stay safe? How did you stay centered in that? Because again, it's like opening up a floodgate.
Yeah. It's a messy place to go out and work for a living because there's a party. Everyone's concert night is your party night, right? And even within our big organization that travels each night, people like to imbibe. So I can't change it nor judge it, but I had to be in it. And I had a good fear. I did not want to go back to drinking because it didn't take me long to realize my life was going to get a lot better without it. And then I sat in a period where I wasn't drinking or drugging, as they say, but I wasn't growing spiritually either. And that's a pretty miserable period. They call it a dry drunk. But if I wasn't really living into the principles, I was just not drinking. And that was the thing that made me feel better. Here I still had pain, unresolved inventory that I hadn't worked through yet, and it kind of was miserable. But I needed to be around the people who were recovering, and thank goodness that, Al-Anon, Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, there's meetings every day of the week at all times of the day in almost every city. So I was going to meetings in San Diego, Dallas, Boise, New York, wherever I could, because I wanted to be around these people. And that power of transparency was very meaningful to me because I saw it in every room. One of the traditions that AA brings forth, which the traditions are to help keep the fellowship healthy and moving forward without imploding on itself. So one of the traditions says, for our group purpose, there's but one ultimate authority, and it's a loving God as represented in the group conscience, which means that every meeting I sit in, even when I don't know people, I'm feeling that loving presence because that's what they're practicing, because their basically principles are, principles that Jesus taught. It's tolerance, it's patience, it's confession, admission, praying for one another, and it's all these wonderful principles. And I received that love in every meeting I have ever gone to, and whenever we tour, I attend those meetings. And so I find a way to them, and we have the internet now, so it's a lot easier than calling people on a phone in the old days. So thank you for that. I hope that answered it. Oh, it's my wife yawning. Sorry. I thought you were raising your...
So you mentioned starting drinking at 14. As a mother of teenagers, it worries me with all the substances and drinking available to them. What advice would you give to teenagers these days, having walked the mile in your shoes that you walked all the way through?
That's a hard one, and the reasons why I prefer speaking to adults about recovery, because it's a hard area. My advice for them, we were lucky in our family, and Laura and I, it's both of our second marriages. We've been married 17 years. We've raised our combined 5 kids. Cameron is one of those. And Laura hasn't drank in longer than I haven't drank, over 21 years. And we've been able to raise our kids in an environment where we could not teach them with the discipline of you can't or you'll never, or if you do this. It was, here's what our experience was. Here's what alcohol did, not for us, which is how a lot of adults look at it, but to us. Here's what alcohol did when we were teenagers. So here's what to look out for, or in our 20s or 30s. Neither of us made it to our 40s drinking, luckily, but we've been able to show them with our lives, and sometimes maybe scare the heck out of them if they need that. But we didn't put down the hard and fast rules, and that's not the same as a lot of parents. We said, hey, you're probably around it. You're 14, and most of them started shaking, no, I'm not. There wasn't beer at the party last night. I'm pretty sure there was. It's okay. You're not in trouble. You're a teenager, and so you're going to start to get exposed to certain things. So let's talk about what that looks like. Let's talk about what you're going to experience that we've already experienced. As much as they all hated that because they know we don't know anything really, right? Teenagers know it all. As much as they didn't want to believe us, they all got to hear real live and honest truth. Because I think when I was still drinking, I would have probably downplayed some of the stuff. I had nothing to lose now because we just want them to know as much as they can about it. So we got to be honest with them. And that was one of the gifts that we've had with our little brood of kids. And in the end, they're all different. Some still don't want to, they'll hide their beer and they're 22. You're 22. They won't admit that they've done something when we said, we don't care if you do that. But here's what you should be very careful for if you do that. It's your life, it's your body. So they're all different. They all have to learn to some degree. They all have to learn on their own. Every parent is not like that, and I can't say that anyone in here has to do it that way. I've had one of my best friends drug tested his kids because he didn't want them to fail and get in trouble and then have a scholarship taken away or ruined. Okay, a lot of ways to do it, but I think honesty is the best policy that we've been able to achieve in our family. Thank you for that question. Yes?
I love the way that you structured your presentation on the 12 steps. It's a beautiful way to cultivate one's spirituality. You alluded briefly to having exposure to Christianity in childhood, but you didn't talk much about how you integrated that childhood
I still to the sort of, my dad wasn't happy when I wrote about how I felt about my childhood Christian education. He's a 92-year-old Catholic from Saginaw, Michigan. They came from a world where you don't talk about it, and you certainly don't disparage it or be critical of it. So I did want to write about it. It was years down the road from those experiences, so I felt I had a right to just say what my experience was. And I mentioned the wrathful God in my talk because that's what I felt. And teaching a certain type of religion or religious ideas or scripture to young kids is hard. And it went sideways on me, was my experience. I was either scared of it or didn't like it or didn't like the way it was taught. Part of that was me. But it intimidated me enough that I couldn't wait to get away from it. And at the same time, in the same school, there were different teachers, sisters, teaching the more loving Jesus New Testament sort of version or ideas. So I was really conflicted. It wasn't just that I wholesale didn't want any of it. I kind of more had some parts didn't make sense to the others. So yeah, to sort of, I guess, reckon that with a big gap in between where I did whatever I wanted was saved mostly by the Recovery Bible that was given to me. So I could really see there is value. I don't have to, what do they call it, throw away the baby with the bathwater. There are some things in there that were just different ways of saying what I was reading in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I had to find what worked for me. Some of it I still can't reconcile. Some of it I look back and go, well, that can't be true. But I still have to do something with that, right? I can either take it literally or not, or find out what's a metaphor and what's a parable and what was meant to be a historical depiction. So I've sorted through that. That's been a longer journey than my recovery. You know, we can struggle with what God is and how I got here and where I'm going our entire lives and never get it right. But I do have some principles that I think are the principles Jesus lived and told us to follow him in that work for me. And at the basis, that's all I can do from day to day. Fact is, I'm not sure where I came from, and I'm not sure where I'm going. But I want to be able to love the people around me the best, this is not a pun, the best that I can. Because I'm here now. I'm not back there, and I'm not wherever I'm going. And so my use of time today and this Sunday in Atlanta is what principles am I living by and acting on. I get less caught up in theology and a lot of that anymore than I do just give me a few principles that I can try and get right, have some progress, and be imperfect. Thank you for that question. Hope that answered it. Yes?
As you know, and you mentioned, we can be in a real denial about our pain and something's a problem. But at the same time, we generally have some sense of, I might need to get help. And I guess I wonder what you would say to somebody, or caring for somebody as well, who, what you would say is, why get help now and not in the future? Why get help now and not in the future?
Ooh, getting others help is,
Or just, we won't even get anybody else.
yeah.
Just to somebody, like, why get help now and not in the future, over and above?
Yeah, it is. I don't think I ever would have understood what help even looked like if I didn't get the chance through an ounce of courage to call somebody, to sit in a room with people that might be like me. It's about identification. So we've got to put in if there's an intuition that there's a problem or a suffering in there, the courage and the direction I try and point people in is, if you think you suffer from a thing, get in a room where people have been recovering from that thing. So Celebrate Recovery, which I mentioned, is a Christ-centered 12-step program. And you sit next to people, and I speak in these often, who might have a gambling addiction or a porn addiction or alcoholism, but they're using the same 12-step principles to get recovered from the thing that is beating him down. So, but it's getting in that setting. And sometimes you just start online. All those places I mentioned are basically places you can reach out to on the internet. And more so there's internet counseling. I prefer, and think the in-person is healthier and better, but it's to just have the courage to get in front of a group that is recovering from the thing you might be thinking you're powerless over, right? And I would never have known. And that's why I was so attracted to sitting with people, because, oh my gosh, these people, the stories they're telling are like my life. They've given up families, they've given up jobs, driver's licenses, you name it. Some were worse and some weren't as bad as my stuff, but they were being honest with it, and they had principles to go by to get recovered. And I just thought that was brilliant. So sometimes just getting in that little space. It's anonymous. So any of those spaces is either confidentiality with a psychologist or psychiatrist, or it's anonymity in a 12-step group. So it should be safe and healthy.
Thanks, Jim. All right, we are going to have Jim work his way to the table.
You'll hear me.
Yes, that's right. You follow where that is. And in that space, I want to invite you to say hello to somebody. If you, hopefully, many of you also made it here early, but meet somebody if you haven't met him yet. Come on over, meet Jim face to face, or we're already face to face. Up close and personal if you would like. Come visit Kate and I at our tables, or slip out, but have a wonderful Sunday evening, and it's good to be together in this journey.